Hey folks, welcome to A Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. And tonight, I'm going to bring you what you've all been waiting for since Duke and I went to San Diego to the Association of Borderland Studies conference to present along with Professor Guadalupe Correa-Cabrera. We were not able to bring you the presentation from that event as promised. We now have that presentation, so I'm going to tell you all about that in just a moment when I introduce the presentation done by Professor Guadalupe Correa-Cabrera. And first, I wanted to thank you all for joining us for this very belated but welcome opportunity to share with you work that I'm very proud of that I'm doing with this professor from George Mason University about the pseudo activists. So our presentation will be on that topic, the pseudo activists. And Duke, do you want to read the title of the presentation at least?
Oh, yes, no problem. The title is The Truth About the Caravan, a Network Analysis of American Pseudo Activism and Homeland Security.
That's right. And today, we are going to be giving you an opportunity to listen to the entire presentation, plus the part that I did for Guadalupe, which this time was me appearing on video. I did not go and attend this conference that took place in Brownsville, Texas, where Guadalupe Correa-Cabrera was the keynote speaker. First, though, I wanted to give Duke a chance to tell people how they can get a hold of us and give support to our station.
Well, thank you, and thank you very much for tuning in and listening. You can contact us many different ways. One way is that you can do a call-in line to our message machine, and it's 701-566-0917. You can leave a message up to 3 minutes. We may put it on the air, so let us hear your sweet voice. If you'd rather do email, you can do cindy@kpppfm.com or me, Duke@kpppfm.com. You can tweet us at media_PPP, and you can follow us on Facebook at 88.1 FM Fargo Moorhead, the People's Press Project of Mexi-Can. And you can follow Cindy on her public page by going to @CindyGoSchempp. You can also go to kpppfm.com and look at the videos we have up there. We put all these videos on YouTube, and then we put the audio format on our pages, so you can listen to the broadcast, and you can also watch it. Also, when you're at kpppfm.com, please go to the Donate tab, kpppfm.com/donate. We're a nonprofit organization, and thanks to you, we are 3 years strong, and we keep on building our capacity to present across the country internationally and locally. We are reaching more and more people in this community is because of our supporters like you. If you'd like to make a donation, go to kpppfm.com/donate and help our dreams come true. And thank you for all of you who have donated and supported us for these 3 years. We love the partnership.
Yes, and I am so proud that our work has reached Mexico, that Guadalupe Correa-Cabrera was introduced to my work through Mexican reporters who then told her to contact me. And that was the beginning of a partnership in working with Guadalupe Correa-Cabrera of the George Mason University, and to partner with her to expose the truth about the Caravan, a network analysis of American pseudo activism and homeland security. Remember, folks, this is a presentation that we first wanted to bring to you about a month ago when I attended in person, along with Duke, the Association of Borderland Studies conference where this was first presented. This presentation will continue to get exposure in the many different conferences and appearances of Professor Guadalupe Correa-Cabrera throughout the nation and beyond, and hopefully will lead it to more analysis and study. This latest presentation took place when Guadalupe was asked to be a keynote speaker at a conference on security and borderland issues in Brownsville, Texas. For those of you who don't know Guadalupe Correa-Cabrera's work, she again is a Ph.D. in political science, the New School for Social Research. She's an associate professor at the Schar School of Policy and Government, George Mason University. Her areas of expertise are Mexico-U.S. relations, organized crime, immigration, border security, and human trafficking. Her newest book, Los Zetas, Inc., Criminal Corporations, Energy and Civil War in Mexico, University of Texas Press 2017, Spanish version, Planeta 2018. She was recently the principal investigator of a research grant to study organized crime and trafficking in persons in Central America and along the Mexico's eastern migration routes, supported by the Department of State Office to monitor and to combat trafficking in persons. Professor Correa-Cabrera is now currently working on a new book project that analyzes the main political, cultural, and ideological aspects of Mexican irregular migration in the United States and U.S. immigration policy, entitled Illegal Aliens: The Human Problem of Mexican Undocumented Migration. She's also finalizing a book titled An Improvised War: Personal Stories and Political Perspectives of Mexico's Security, co-authored with Dr. Tony Payan. At the same time, she is co-editing a volume titled North American Borders in Comparative Perspectives: Rebordering Canada, the United States of America, and Mexico in the 21st Century, in contact with the University of Arizona Press, forthcoming in 2020. Guadalupe Correa-Cabrera is the past president of the Association of Borderland Studies, and she's also a global fellow at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars and Non-Resident Scholars at the Bakers Institute Mexico Center, Rice University. I am very proud now to, without further ado, bring you our presentation, The Truth About the Caravan, a network analysis of American pseudo activism and homeland security.
Migration routes, and she's supported by the Department of State's Office to monitor, combat trafficking in persons. Professor Correa-Cabrera is now working on a new book project that analyzes the main political, cultural, and ideological aspects of Mexican irregular immigration in the United States and U.S. immigration policy, and the title is Illegal Aliens: The Human Problem of Mexico, Undocumented Migration. She is also finalizing a book titled An Improvised War: Personal Stories and Political Perspectives of Mexico's Securities, and co-authored, by the way, with one of our other spotlight speakers, Dr. Tony Payan, sitting over there. At the same time, she is co-editing a volume titled North American Borders in Comparative Perspective: Rebordering Canada, the United States of America, and Mexico in the 21st Century. And this is coming out of the University of Arizona Press. So here we go. It's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Terry. First of all, I would like to thank Terrence Garrett, the program, the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, the grant that you received, but most importantly, you. You were the first person here that I talked to when I came to Brownsville almost 10 years ago. I always receive your support. This presentation has a lot of you incorporated because of the conversations we have had, the work you have done that has inspired my own work. You have been an inspiration. You have been a great friend, a great mentor. Many things that I have done have been because of you. Thank you very much, Terry, for all the support that you always gave me, that you gave me for 8 years when I was living at the river. And you were the first person who opened the doors for me to this town, to the border. Thanks for having me here. It's a privilege, it's an honor to be here speaking at my former institution, my school, my home. It's very important for me. It's a very important city for me. I am going to present my new research that's not it's a little bit controversial. I have been living at the border and doing research connected to irregular immigration, and I talk about irregular immigration. I'm mostly friendly with the idea that everybody could transit where they are received or accepted, and I'm very critical of the hypocrisy of the government of this country that provides jobs to people but do not provide them with legal documentation. I traveled 1.5 years along the migration routes in Central America. I understand quite well the processes, the motivations, the pull and push factors of irregular immigration. I have also documented the abuses against migrants along their journey. I've talked here a number of times about the documentations of these abuses in several aspects and all along the migration routes. But today, I am going to talk about the current politics in the United States and the geopolitics of the new conceptions about undocumented immigration and asylum seekers and what I call a border support network. Pseudo Activism and Homeland security the main aim of migrant caravans. Last year, there were three important events that took place. One was the migrant caravan that was visualized in April of 2018. The separation of families craziness because of the Department of Homeland Security Secretary declaring that people who were coming to the United States irregularly, they would be separated, the families would be separated, and that caused a big debate in the public sphere. Some against, some for, and of course that was connected to the 2016 election of Donald J. Trump as president of this country, and how what was a society that was already divided became more divided, but now in the lines of immigration. As no other time in the history of this country, immigration has been at the center. Immigration has been always politicized, and we talked about that last night. To 1994, the election of governor of California, and then the election of Bill Clinton, put immigration at the center of these two important campaigns. That's why Bill Clinton also hired Alan Bersin as the border czar as a response to what had happened in California. So we know that immigration is some important bottoms of the public opinion. But as of today, I have never seen this happen at the center of the whole, debate in politics. In Washington, D.C., it's all about immigration, the coverage of the Washington Post, the coverage of the New York Times, and last year, for the first time, everybody who calls themselves liberals were supporting and were understanding that we had a humanitarian problem, a humanitarian crisis at the border that involved asylum seekers. That's how now everybody talks about those who have been violated their rights, who have been abused along the routes. But this time, many people in this country, senators, the Republican and the Democratic Party with the two positions have been divided along these lines. But this is more a political issue. I have seen so many abuses of migrants through all these years, but now everybody is taking a side here. And legislators, senators, congresspeople in this country are taking this as a flag in a way that I see this in a very disingenuous way. And this is dividing the country in ways that can also help us thinking about the new configuration of geopolitics in the world. And somebody mentioned, and we have mentioned the influence of Russia and the influence of other nations that might have in these mass mobilizations. I am very interested in trying to understand migrant caravans. The migrant caravan that was formed in October of last year really opened my eyes to something very different. I have talked to a lot of human rights defenders, human rights advocates, journalists, experts, law enforcement agents, and immigration lawyers. I kind of understood the dynamics of smuggling, the dynamics of undocumented immigration. But that caravan was none of them. The involvement of actors that were not necessarily part of the support networks that existed along the routes. in the migrant shelters really caught my attention. And this is how I am starting a new project that many people don't like a lot, because right now people are divided along these lines. Either you are with immigrants or you are against immigrants and with Donald Trump. Either you are for Trump or versus Trump. This is what it is about. And this is what it will be about in the next year and some months before the election. It's going to be about immigrants with a very disingenuous way. Now, people in this country, in Washington, D.C., have discovered that there are people that are trying to escape from a very, very, very difficult reality in their countries of origin. But now, this is all politicized. And now, these organizations that provided support to immigrants are, right now, I say infiltrated or are incorporating different actors that were never part of these networks and are appearing as part of these networks that, caught my attention and surprised me a little bit. What happens in Mexico? Mexico is now the most affected country of these mass migrations, because many people have been told that they can come to the United States, they can come in caravans, and they can apply for asylum. So now it's about families. Families can come because they are applying for asylum. It's not illegal to apply for asylum. It's completely legal. And of course, there is a motivation to continue militarizing the border, not spending the resources on processing these people, but at the same time, there is also an effort that we see, and not only myself, but also those the parts of the networks that supported migrants. They are seeing new actors and forces that are not like by those who support migrants. This mass migration, there are many people in great risk, particularly women and children, that are coming with the intention to apply for asylum and arrive to the United States without understanding that this is part of a political issue that generates a spectacle. Trump, before this happened, was talking about a crisis at the border that we never saw. Of course, here in Texas, I have always been told by the media, by Breitbart Texas, all these outlets, that there's a crisis at the border that I don't see. There's no crisis at the border. On the U.S. side of the border, at least, we have some of the most, of the safest cities in the United States. And now, with this caravan, you could see the images, you could see the journalists, you could see the coverage of what was happening, and this really got the attention of public opinion in a way that seemed to be more manufactured than real, more induced than just part of the push factors that are present. Of course, in Central America, people are escaping from violence, from gang violence, not all of them from gang violence, or trying to get better opportunities because of the poverty, the insufficient opportunities in their countries. That's a reality. And the responsibility that this country has had, that's also a reality. But why now people are coming into caravans? Why now there is a political fight at Congress between the Democrats and the Republicans? Donald Trump is blaming the Democrats for allowing this to happen, and the Democrats are blaming Donald Trump for not attending asylum seekers, these people that are coming escaping from violence. And now everybody has this fight that it's just about power. It's not about the migrants themselves. Migrants have been dying for several years. And so only today, people are discovering migrants. There's always okay. So this is part of an article that we wrote, and this has five sections. I'm going to talk about a little bit about who is behind the formation of migrant caravans, who is supporting the caravans, through the lenses of those who are organizing the caravans from the United States of America, in the United States of America. Who are these activists that we call pseudo activists? Because that has helped them to raise a lot of money and not many results for them. I'm gonna pose certain hypotheses of what this is causing. I don't want to come up with a conspiracy theory, but this has had important, or will have important geopolitical results, and of course electoral results, and maybe Donald Trump is going to be elected for 4 more years, connected to all these processes that are dividing the society. And also some influences of other countries can also take advantage of the fragmentation of the society generated by this perception. Immigration, really moves the bottoms that we know. Donald Trump won, and Donald Trump was in his campaign. He was supporting the building of the fence, the building of the wall. We had in Brownsville, Texas, more than in any other place, probably at the border. We knew what was that about, and how. I mean, a person who revived that, nobody had talked about that. For many people, this was the first time that they heard we'll have to build a wall because this is going to keep us safe. And they do believe that. That's more ideological. That moves the correct bottoms. And I'm going to talk about the society of the spectacle and how this is only a spectacle. No wall is going to serve us to protect each other. No confrontation with the police. No camps at the border are going to do anything to prevent a political fight from happening. No camp. Nobody who's going to confront with the authorities is going to gain anything from this. It's not moving. I don't know what's going on. Okay.
There we go.
Oh yeah, there we go. So, we saw this type of Caravan happening. A particular activist, particular journalists that were never part of the support network of protection of migrants appeared suddenly in October. It was interesting, and I have registered them all. And this is important. Okay, so when in my own research, I was trying to see who was behind the formation of caravans, and I discovered this guy, Pueblos Sin Fronteras. Al otro lado is a group of lawyers that is well connected. This woman, Nicole Ramos, has like a hat of Pueblos Sin Fronteras, so it's well connected to Irineo Mujica, the Pueblos Sin Fronteras guy. They accompanied the migrants that were in Caravan with the idea that together they will not be extorted by criminal groups, by corrupt Mexican authorities, but they generated with this caravan that arrived to Tijuana and the confrontation with border enforcement, with law enforcement at the border, generated what really Donald Trump wanted to generate, which was the perception that there was a humanitarian crisis at the border, that there was a crisis at the border, and finally he made his point basically. And this person is the person who arrived to Tijuana with the LGBTQ caravan. These are the people that I started to see them as newcomers. I mean, Irineo has been there forever, but there's another guy, Alex Metzing, we all know him. He's part of Pueblos Sin Fronteras. He's like a guy from the United States. All these people are from the United States. A Ph.D. student at Harvard. People that were not part of those that I knew. So this helped me to try to see what was happening, and then I found and I met this person who has been doing work in North Dakota, and she studied the mobilization in Standing Rock. Standing Rock. Okay. Standing Rock. I look at the images. How I mean, in Standing Rock there was the pipeline was going to be built. The North Dakota Access Pipeline was going to be built and was built in North Dakota. There was a big mobilization that started in 2016. In the end, it generated a lot of solidarity from many people, from the original peoples of the United States. And in the end, what happened was, in reality, that the pipeline was built. I would like to show you a video of the person who I met, because she was trying to understand who were behind the caravans, because some of the organizers at Standing Rock were also the organizers of the migrant caravans. And so these American people that I started to identify in Tijuana, I didn't know that they were also part of the organization of Standing Rock. In the end, the movement was disseminated and the pipeline was built. So if we can hear, I mean, I met this woman because exactly we were identifying the same people in Tijuana, but she had been following them in Standing Rock. So Can we listen to the video? 8 minutes? Okay. This is a woman. She's a radio host at North Dakota, and she has been doing some work, and she can explain what is the connection between Standing Rock and the Caravan.
The Truth About the Caravan, a network analysis of American Pseudo Activism and Homeland Security. My name is Cindy Gomez-Schempp, and I'm the host of A Mexican Crossing Lines on KPPPLP 88.1 FM, Fargo-Moorhead. I've been following what happened with activists at Standing Rock and since the protest against the Dakota Access Pipeline. I continue to investigate and report on the activities of activists who called themselves water protectors for the past 3 years. Some of these activists at Standing Rock framed an innocent Oglala Lakota woman, accusing her of elder abuse against her own mother. Kathleen Bennett was facing 15 years in prison for a crime she did not commit. Over the course of my investigation into the activists involved in framing Kathleen, I discovered that many of them were lead organizers in the protest. The individuals who framed Kathleen Bennett were part of groups that worked in a large network but concealed their involvement to each other or their groups, and that they were working as a large network. These individuals and groups consisted of anti-fascist anarchists, nonprofits, NGOs, organizers, activists, nonviolent direct action trainers, medics, healers, human rights observers, first responders, security details, the American Indian movement and Native Nations groups, environmentalists, lawyers groups, media citizen journalists, photographers, documentary filmmakers, politicians, Hollywood actors, influencers, interfaith, clergy, and military veterans, forming an operation that took place at Standing Rock. This interconnected, well-organized, decentralized group usurped the local indigenous natives at Standing Rock and supplanted them to hijack the protest movement and the fight against the pipeline, instead guaranteeing its completion and devastating the encampment. The infrastructure project was not stopped. The environment was not protected, and in the aftermath, our community was left divided and angry. These pseudo-activists cost North Dakota over $30 million, leaving over 800 dumpsters of trash and damage to the environment, including burned out, abandoned buildings, structures, and vehicles. Over 800 people ended up arrested, mostly pleading guilty. Millions of dollars are unaccounted for, and many enriched themselves, except for the poor local natives of the nearby reservations, mostly affected by the pipeline and the protest. The hijacking of natural movements by pseudo-activists at Standing Rock involved using Indian faces to establish the moral high ground that Indian people should lead and white settlers should be allies and follow. In reality, the mostly white leadership and funding behind the protest perpetuated the exploitation of the local native people and pitted communities of color against each other, creating lateral oppression. The backlash against the modus operandi of the protest left great division and more racial tension in North Dakota than before. Ultimately, this network was artificial, non-organic, and it delegitimized the real movement. It manipulated people, helped raise funds and prominence of these pseudo-activists in the media. The funds that were raised weren't transparent. There was zero accountability for their use. And the decentralized format of these networks allowed activist groups to have zero accountability for the human rights abuses and crimes that occurred. And also, finally, it served the interests of politics and policies that ultimately imposed a white majority imperialistic worldview on indigenous and marginalized people. Ultimately, at Standing Rock, as with these caravans, we were told that nobody organized, planned, funded, or drove this phenomenon. We were told everything was organic, grassroots, and indigenous-led. In reality, as this chalkboard from the lead organizers of the Border Support Network shows, the network moving these caravans was and is organized and complex. This was a presentation at Antioch College in Ohio, second week of December 2018. And as you can see, the Border Support Network carries over a prophecy taken from Standing Rock, the eagle and the condor, to provide the moral superiority for the water protectors. The middle section shows both land and water protectors fighting infrastructure projects like the wall now and the pipeline at Standing Rock. They also have legal observers, the legal witnesses that are mentioned there, and protest organizations with political statements who are in that group, the Border Support Network leaders. All of this is undergirded by funding. You can see on the right a fully developed distribution system for donations, including the names of key activists who will be in charge that represent cities and groups and organizations that are part of this matrix. You can see Texas, San Diego, and Tijuana prominently featured. There's support, sponsorship support, as well as legal support for asylum seekers and the activists. And you can tell on the left that they also have medical support there. The educational part, which is their messaging, involves nonviolent direct action training by Border Support Network activists, as well as colleges, indigenous culture history, and the history of natural resources taught by indigenous leaders that are part of the tribes that have been involved in this caravan migration phenomenon, including Myrindu, digital smoke signals, Mr. Dwayne Redwater, Juan B. Mancias of the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe. And in the second chalkboard about their activist headquarters, they even get as involved and as talking about the steps in which they will begin their activism, their pseudo activism, and how all of this depends on locations and access to food and water and the collaboration of altruistic relief. You can see that even they have plans for how many miles from Tijuana they would have their acquired land. And this matrix, the sample matrix that we have for you, is simply key people in this border support network. The 21 actors identified within the border support network represented by this matrix are a network of 21 actors that are leadership at different levels of the operation within the greater network. The sample is comprised of people that fit into different categories representing normal grassroots movements. They fill key roles in this classification that make up the movement and campaign in this border support network. At the bottom, we have the foundation, which involves people that are supposed to be the activists, the allies, the boots on the ground, and leaders, organizational leaders. In the supported groups, you find NGO, nonprofit executives, spokespeople, human rights defenders, and lawyers groups. And the third messaging group is comprised of people that move this, expose this to millions through their media allies, political ties, and massive national campaigns. And finally, all the way at the top, the influencers, which are managed ultimately, all of these other groups below them are managed ultimately by thought leaders, influencers, celebrities, and public relations managers. In their progression, you see the foundation, the supported groups, the messaging, and the influencers. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to give you a little bit of like an introduction of a very complex network that we are trying to understand. It's just a network, and please don't take me wrong. Activism is important, not only resistance, but the fight for good causes. And I'm not saying that these all are pseudo activists. These are just part of a network that operates for the political purposes of those who are in power. And of course, activism is important, resistance and mobilization. But we might find the border support network, or those who support the caravans, might do more harm than good to those who are seeking asylum. Right now, the expansion of the detention center infrastructure, the construction of the wall, the election of leadership in this country that's very divisive, xenophobic, and all that. This division, like with the help, helping those who come to this country with their families applying for asylum and MEX, is really probably will generate less opportunities for those who are really escaping from violence and can really their cases of asylum can be approved. So sometimes we try to do something good, and in the end, a very negative result can come up from this. It's a little bit like counterinsurgency. A good movement is infiltrated by those who want to ask for a very violent response from the state. The state, infiltrate these movements, and finally, the state has to, because of the mobilization becomes violent, then the state comes and represses the movement. This is what seemed to have happened in Standing Rock. It was a very genuine movement with a lot of solidarity, with several groups coming to North Dakota to support the water protectors, but in the end, the result was the division within the society. Everybody there was tired of the water protectors, of all those who were part of the movement, but they were perceived as instead of us protecting the land and the rights of the indigenous people, they were perceived as disruptors, as those who were causing a lot of destruction within the community. And in the end, this is a perfect way for example, and I'm not alleging that this happened, but for the Koch brothers or for oil companies to continue doing what they want to do. Infiltrate the movement, cause a reaction. This is counterinsurgency. That has been, shown to us in the CIA manuals of counterinsurgency in Central America. This is what the Contras did. Infiltrated movements to get a response from the state. So themselves, these are the guys who these were all. This is a class that they gave at Antioch College, the activists themselves, and we started with a matrix of 21 people, and all these numbers have to do with interactions. How integrated is the network? How Standing Rock and those organizers of the Caravan are connected? And these people are not just activists; they are also those who get funds, who are the influence, or who are in the media, and create all this perception that asylum seekers are something very important that we need to support, and we need to support the Caravans. But that is also a part of a political strategy and political game between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. They are connected to other movements that are also very political, such as Occupy Wall Street or the Women's March, exactly at the time when Donald Trump got the election. He was initiating his government, and then the Women's March came. And so some of these actors are connected to all these movements as well. This is an operation of billions of dollars. I'm going to show you our network of how these groups, all these people that are very influential in the network. We have database of over 120 people, but these were the most influential, the ones that are more influential in both movements. The Caravan organization and Standing Rock, and they become a density of 0.78, which is a very, very high density by utilizing the communications in the cyberspace. And we just can put some hypotheses there. The reason that they are connected can have different explanations. Activists have different motivations, but they can be in different movements. They are part of their ideologies. We have to protect the rights of others, the rights of minorities, and it might be genuine, original, and movement that also drive other actors to benefit from it. It can be opportunism from many groups, not necessarily connecting the politicians, the media influencers, the Hollywood actors, and those who raise money for these causes, and those who support these movements. It can be connected because of opportunism of different kinds. It can be just like that. But this has also generated a very interesting phenomenon that can really tell us that these might have different forces or external forces. What is happening today in the United States with the immigration debate? This society is divided as more than any other time in history. How a society, how an hegemonic power can continue being an hegemon if it's divided so much? And the activism that is right now representing this is putting into question, and I'm not advocating for those values, for American values. I'm not American, I was not born in this country. But this has been putting into question Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Eyes, Women's March, all these people that are connected to this network have been part of all these movements. This has been put in question the foundations of the United States of America, the values of the United States of America. And this is connected also to the campaign of Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and the Socialist Democrats. This is what this network is showing us. What are the connections between them? They are people that are associated with the left wing, with environmentalist movements, with the Green New Deal. But that is putting into question what the United States has been about. And again, I'm not advocating for American principles. I'm just explaining what I have seen. I'm just explaining our reality. It seems that Donald Trump wants to divide, or has been very, very successful dividing this society along the lines of immigration. And these other groups are also part of the other ones that are generated or create exactly the same result. So in terms of geopolitics, this is a perfect place to put in question the hegemonic power of the United States. And those that would like this country to continue being divided would like to promote both sides, the extreme left and the extreme right. And this is the perfect way to diminish the influence of a country like the United States of America. We saw some influences, external influence in Sandy Rock with the Young Turks, a media platform that gave the news about the water protectors. They are connected to Turkey. I'm not saying that this is just a hypothesis. I'm just posing certain hypotheses coming from just a network analysis. And the paper also has a very interesting part about psychological operations. Now, how psychological operations make use of media. It has different components that present a truth, like this, the eagle and the condor presage, how the eagles, how the original peoples of the United States are gonna influence what's happening on the southern border with the original peoples of the south, the Incas, the Mayans, and how they're gonna get together and how are they gonna reclaim their land. Who's gonna benefit from that? Who's gonna benefit from that mobilization? External countries probably, because this puts in question right now the role of the United States government and the role of the Mexican government. If you hear the discourse of migrant caravan organizers, it's against the Mexican government, against the fascist Mexican government, the fascist United States government. The use of the word fascist and the use of Antifas, anti-fascist groups, that some of them cover their faces and generate all this confrontation with ICE, with the Border Patrol. We all know, because we were professors here, that the Border Patrol is an institution. It's not an enemy of the country. I mean, I am not advocating for Border Patrol or for ICE, but the discourse in this country has put the institutions at stake by the own people of the United States of America. Think about it. Think about it, the right and the left, the extreme right and the extreme left are generating the division within this country. And that's why it's the geopolitics and the end of the U.S. hegemony. And finally, and I would like to make mention of the media spectacle. This is only a spectacle. Standing Rock was a big spectacle. The pipeline was built. The Sioux tribe is exactly in the same position it was before. There was no renewable energy infrastructure built, nothing. It was all a big spectacle of millions of dollars that were raised in GoFundMe, Venmo, all these electronic platforms that went to whom? To all these groups of pseudo activists. That's why we call them pseudo activists, because they say that they're going to do something. They utilize these Hollywood stars, these documentary films about indigenous people, about migrants, about their journey, about their misery, about their tragedy. But in the end, what is happening? We're expanding the capacity of detention centers in this country. We have another detention center. We have more drones. We have more militarization of the border. It's a money-making machine to those of the system that we don't want. It's not the Cold War. It's not communism versus capitalism. There's not communism anymore. In Russia, there's no communism. In Turkey, there's no communism. It's just about power and money. This is what it is about. And this is why I talk about the society of the spectacle, and the society of the spectacle, and the work of Guy Debord in his 1967 book and work was introduced to me by Terry Garrett. Terry Garrett has written about the border wall, immigration, border security through the lenses of the society of the spectacle. And I'm following Terry's work, but his work was, the Spectacle of U.S. Immigration Policy was published in 2013, but he had been working since 2008 in the issues of the wall. I think that's what I see. So, spectacle is the inverted image of society in which relationships between commodities have supplanted relations between people, in which passive identification with the spectacle supplying genuine activity. This is exactly what this woman was talking about in her presentation. The spectacle reposes an incessant deployment of a very technical rationality to which that philosophical tradition gives rise. So far from realizing philosophy, the spectacle philosophizes reality and turns material life of everyone into a universe of speculation. So it was adapted from Terence Garrett in his 2013 paper, and Guy Debord 1967. This is the society of the spectacle. This is the president of the country. The average. This is all what it is about. What happened with the migrant caravan? All these migrants were taken from their lands, and several, rich lands in natural resources in Guatemala, for example, have been now emptied because of this American dream of families coming to the United States. Why they all went to Tijuana? Who funded this operation? Pueblos Sin Fronteras. Who's Pueblos Sin Fronteras? Who's behind Pueblos Sin Fronteras? Who's behind these groups that are promoting more and more people, and that can be pictured, that can be taken as a spectacle, that can be filmed as if it was a very big tragedy. There's a big tragedy of undocumented immigration. It's a big tragedy in Central America. But why today, and why so organized? Why the push factors have not changed dramatically. It didn't change dramatically in October. And those who understand social movement theory understand that we need political opportunities, material resources, mobilizing frameworks, and the conjunction of these factors, this is what drives the movement. It's not only because you're poor people don't protest. Poverty is not a necessary cause for protest, for mobilization. We need to have these other frames to lead a social movement. This is just also from Terence Garrett, that it's kind of what we're observing right now. Why do we need a wall? This country was stopped, its economy, there was the biggest government shutdown in the history of the nation because the president wants to build a wall. It's a big spectacle. It's about politics. It's not about migrants. It's not about security. And this phrase is very good, the great phrase from a paper of Terry in 2013, that really depicts today's reality very, very well. The wall can be used to as an apparatus or a simulacrum to convince Americans that they are secure where they are or are not. The border wall is an outgrowth of the society of the spectacle, and it is the spectacle. And that was written, and Terry, when he started to participate in the mobilizations against the fence, they were very legitimate because we were talking about private property. I mean, we all know what this is about. And now, this president comes saying, we need a wall because it pushes important values. Terry started to think about that in 2008. And this is only a spectacle. So thank you, and if you have any questions, of course, please forgive me because I understand that we have some people that are participating right now in the camps at the border. We have to be very careful. If we call from violence, if we resist the construction of the border wall, the wall is going to be built. More drones are going to come. And you're calling this violent reaction from the United States state will come, and the border wall is going to be built. More detention centers are going to be created, and all these people that have been able to be released here in the United States, because the system is broken today and has gone to the limit. It's a very big money-making machine. The border military-industrial complex is a reality that gives a lot of money. They're going to deport all these people out right now, we believe. They have been identified. They have been processed. That's why it takes so much time to be processed. It's not the Democrats are the good ones, the Republicans are the bad ones, or vice versa. They all look for power. It's the same thing. It's not about the people. It's about the political power in this country, and we have to understand it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
So, folks, that was the presentation. And again, it will continue to be exposed throughout the many venues in which this professor continues to appear. Hopefully, we can get a better sound quality or video quality recording that we can use to update this presentation because I realized that it wasn't the best sound quality. But I am so glad that you finally all got to hear what, months of work and the fruits of our labor produced at the ABS conference, the very first time in San Diego, and now continuing on. So thanks for joining me, and please share this presentation with your friends, with your neighbors. Let them know what we are working on together with this professor here at A Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You've been listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Muchas gracias y buenas noches.